What's going on, people? Welcome to the United Stand. What's going on? I make it just past 1 o'clock, man. A couple of minutes past 1 o'clock by my watch. We've got to react to some news. We've got a little bit to talk about regarding Thiago from Bayern Munich and a little bit on Jadon Sancho as well. So some interesting news coming out from Fabrizio Romano that he's tweeted out, which is actually in response to the former Bayern Munich president, and Uli Hoeneß, that's how I'm going to pronounce it. Apologies if I get that wrong. And this is the tweet right here, and this is the information that we're getting. Uli Hoeneß says, regarding Thiago Alcantara, we offered him a contract, but in the last minute, he changed his mind. He probably has an agreement on personal terms with Liverpool or Man United or with both. He goes on to say that both Liverpool and Man United did not come to us with an official offer. They are bluffing and waiting until the last week of the window to make a cheap offer. Bayern must decide whether they want to play this game or stand their ground and keep him. So really interesting, man, coming out early this afternoon. Playing the waiting game, playing the buffing game. Me personally, I still think he's going to go to Liverpool. I do. I still think he's going to go to Liverpool, but we have definitely been in contact. We've definitely been talking to the agents. Manchester United have definitely shown an interest. That's the noise is what we're hearing. That is concrete. That is fact. And I don't really blame us for kind of trying to wait to exercise or exploit the market, let's say, because look, the longer it gets, 2 weeks left of the transfer window, the more likely it is that, you know, they'll have to accept a different fee for Thiago, especially as now Thiago has definitely not signed the contract that Bayern Munich has put on place. Look, at the end of the day, you look at what Van der Beek done yesterday in the Aston Villa game. It's very early. That's cool. That's fine. But if you get Thiago into that midfield, there's going to be people saying, oh, no, you know, where's he going to play, etc., etc. All I know is that our midfield will be stacked full of quality. That's all I want as a Manchester United fan. I want us to be stacked in quality in every department. 30 million for Thiago is a banker. He's 29. Do you know what I mean? He's a few years younger than Matic and a whole different player to Matic. But I would take him for 30 million. And as fans, we're like, just pay the money, just go and get him. But I understand it's got to be a bit of a waiting game, especially as we're trying to balance the books and money-wise exactly to get Jadon Sancho over the line, which is going to be a hell of a lot of money. You can see why Manchester United are going to be quite cautious about the Thiago situation. Also, you've got to remember that Klopp's pushing for this move. More so than we are, I believe. I think Klopp definitely wants Thiago. You look at what he'll bring to Liverpool. There's no reason why he wouldn't want him. But, you know, Liverpool, the financial situation, aren't going to cough up the 30 million just like that. So it's an interesting one. I think it's going to play out. I think we're right to wait. I think we're right to not just go in for it. Do you know what I'm saying? Me personally, I think we're right not to just go in for it. We have to try and wait to exploit it because I think his destination is going to be Liverpool. But if we can get in there and offer him more money and try and wangle it, then potentially we could hijack the deal. So I think with only 2 people in for him, I do agree with that. But I know there's going to be a lot of people saying, just pay the 30 million, just pay the money, just pay the money, just pay the money. And I get that. But because we're trying to do this Sancho thing, because we're probably still looking at a centre-back, the Reguilon thing is ticking over. You don't know where that's going to go. For me, I can see why we're kind of waiting. And it's interesting that Bayern Munich are basically saying that. They're saying they're basically trying to make us bluff, you know. Another report was suggesting that it's blackmail. It's blackmail and that, you know, we're trying to hold them to ransom. But it's a game of cat and mouse. It's a game of chess. This is what it is, man. This is what transfers are, especially right now. Do you know what I'm saying? Especially with everything going on pre-COVID, or if you say pre-COVID, it's still around. But with everything going on in the transfer market, for me personally, I can see why we're not just going in and paying the 30. Because if it gets to 2 days left of the transfer window and Thiago clearly hasn't signed, so he still wouldn't have signed by then, you're going to force them into a situation where they're going to have to accept something, and the player's going to get to dictate where he goes. So I'd say work on the best package for Thiago if Manchester United want him. You know, have the conversation, see if you can. We should look in terms of wages and what we can offer Thiago as a package. I'm sure we can offer Thiago way more. Yes, you've got to get a balance between him joining the club just for money. But obviously what Liverpool can offer him is probably instant challenging for trophies. You know, the chance to retain the Premier League trophy, the chance to go for the Champions League again and generally compete for the big honours. So Thiago at this stage of his career, he's just won it. He's just won the Champions League, won multiple trophies in Germany with Bayern. Would he want a new challenge in terms of not wanting to be the favourite, not wanting to be the top dog? yes, monetary wise and contract value, he will be. But will he think that that's down to Thiago? And I think that's where it's going to come down to, because we can offer more than Liverpool. We can offer more money for Thiago than Liverpool can put up. We know that. We can pay big money for players. We can also, more importantly, we can pay big wages. But it has got to be for the right sum. Yeah, I get it. We don't want to be smashing. We don't want another Alexis Sanchez on our hands. I understand that. But a player of Thiago's quality to come into our squad would make a massive difference, in my opinion. Underscore Reflection says, Flex, just the way Matic turned his form around, do you think players like James, Mata and Dalot can step up? Do they deserve another chance? Well, away from Thiago a little bit, I think those players are going to end up getting another chance, whether we like it or not, because we're not going to be able to replace all those players. Dan James is not going to go anywhere. Diogo Dalot potentially might. Who is the other person? Mata, I don't think is going to go anywhere. So we're going to have to rely on these players. And by the looks of it, it doesn't look like we're going to get a huge lot in there. You know, I think Luke Shaw was saying in his post-match press conference or his post-match interview, basically saying, we're ready for the season. We're ready to go again. We don't just want top four. We want silverware. And I respect that as a player. But the reality is we've still got a lot of dead wood there that hasn't moved on. You're looking at probably Smalling and Romero as the two who potentially will almost certainly get their moves. But I think Dalot, Lingard's going to stay. Mata's going to stay. Nothing said on Phil Jones as of yet. Rojo, you know, you just don't know. So I can't see a lot of players leaving. I just don't think we're going to get that done in this climate. So yeah, I think we will get to see those players have another chance, because we're going to have to. But if you're just joining us, the news is that basically the former president of Bayern Munich is saying that Thiago has rejected a deal on the table from Thiago. He said he rejected it at the last minute, and that Manchester United and Liverpool, or either one or both, probably have he has an agreement with either one of us at Liverpool. And you know, get your thoughts and your opinions in on that, because look, some people are actually saying that they don't want Thiago. Where does he play? What's the point? Who's he going to play instead of? He's not going to play instead of Pogba. He's not going to play instead of Bruno, and potentially you could play ahead of Van der Beek. But I just see it as we just need the quality. If Thiago comes, he starts for me. I think you work it out afterwards. You start. I think you look at Thiago, Pogba, and Bruno. That would be phenomenal. That would be phenomenal. If Pogba's not at it, you play Thiago, Van der Beek, or Bruno. Whatever. It doesn't matter. You just got that level of quality there. It's all about the quality. Do you know what I'm saying? I keep saying it. Liverpool, not so much. But you look at Manchester City with the quality that they have. You look at how Chelsea are buying up the place. Like, especially old school Chelsea, they used to have 2 players for every position. Do you know what I'm saying? We did back in the day. So you've got, if you want to kick on, we need quality, and you need quality in depth. You can't just have one top player in each position. It just doesn't work, in my opinion, unless you're really lucky, especially how Liverpool have. They haven't had a solid injury, I dare say, for a couple of years now. Stephen Alexander says, big up my guy, killing it out here, Flex. Mate, Sancho hasn't trained with Dortmund, and no mention for once in the pressure. Here we go. Let's talk a little bit about Jadon Sancho. We'll talk a little bit about that. A lot of reports saying that he wasn't mentioned in the Dortmund presser, and he has not been seen in training, and they have a game tomorrow. Is it time? Look, you know what happened when I spoke to Harry Pinero, good acquaintance of Jadon, and knows a lot of people close to the deal. He's saying it's done, D-O-N-E, done. And are we starting to see that? I think it is a coincidence. Normally, you know, you're hearing about Jadon all the time. We're happy he's here. He's going to give us this. He's going to give us that. And it's the day before a game, and he hasn't been mentioned in the presser. And more importantly, he hasn't been in training. It's going to be interesting to see how that pans out, because maybe there's something in that. I mean, Mark, you know what Mark's like. He's in the 90% gang. He was tweeting out saying that, you know, he's getting ready for Palace at home on the first day of the season. I don't think he'll be a Manchester United player by then. However, I am confident, or becoming increasingly confident, that he will within the next couple of weeks. It's going to be really interesting to see, because I think we're going to get some movement on that. There's 2 weeks left, I think, of the transfer window. People are losing their shit about the game against Aston Villa yesterday. We lost 1-0. I saw the highlights. We had chances to score. Probably should have scored. At the end of the day, it's a friendly. Who cares? But what you can see is the fact that what we always know is that when our top players aren't there, what do we have? Do you know what I'm saying? What do we have? We don't have that quality. So we have to, this next 2 weeks coming in is going to be crucial, especially if we start against Crystal Palace and we still haven't signed anyone. So this whole week, if we don't sign a player, at least 1 week, and that's going to be pressure. That's going to be massive pressure to get the likes of Thiago, to get the likes of a defender, to get the likes of a Jadon Sancho over the line, if it is going to be Thiago. So I think there's going to be movement. I think it's going to be really interesting. I think we're going to be reacting constantly here on the United stand. As soon as Fabrizio Romano says something, as soon as Fjortov says something, any reputable sources. And I think there's going to be movement on Sancho. The fact that he's not in, I'm just checking tweets as we're live to make sure I'm not missing anything. But, you know, as we're going into the last bit of the transfer window and he's not in training, interesting, because, you know, I spoke to Harry about, you know, do you think that Sancho would hand in a transfer request? And he was like, he's probably not the player to do that. But it might get to a situation where Jadon goes, sod this. You lot are going to price me out of a move here. I want to go to Manchester United. It's all sorted. Let me go. I ain't playing. Do you know what I'm saying? And you know what Dortmund are like? They sell for the right price. They've put their price on the table, and you know they could be bluffing as well. You know, maybe we will get him for the 80 million plus add-ons or the 75 million plus add-ons, similar to a Kai Havertz. Do you know what I'm saying? That's kind of set the tone. So for me, I think there's going to be movement on Sancho coming up this week, especially within the next sort of 5 days or so. I think there will be, especially if Sancho doesn't play tonight. Yes, he hasn't been spoke about in the press conference, and yes, he's not been training, which usually is always a suggestion that he won't play. But I think once he doesn't play, and then the manager's going to be faced with all their sporting director. Or chairman, whatever you want to call it, is going to be faced with questions about Sancho. I think that's going to give the best indication yet, because I think they either say he picked up a niggle coming back or an injury, you know, he tweaked something coming back from international duty. But for me, they would say before that, they would say Sancho's not going to play because he's come back from England with a thigh strain or with a calf strain or whatever. That's very unusual for them not to mention him at all if he hasn't trained. So for me, I think there's going to be movement. If United, this is from Joy Deep. If United are ever to make all or nothing, I want you to be the narrator. Make that happen. Imagine that. Imagine if we made it all or nothing. I'm up for that, being the narrator. I'm definitely up for that. I've been watching the Spurs one, and it is good to see as well. Although, you know, it's a bit embarrassing when you watch it, knowing that it's nothing, because it certainly wasn't all, was it? As I told Expressions that as well. Katz Patel says, Flex, Glazers spending more money on big name NFL players. Tom Brady, Gronk, Fournette. Do you think that affects Man United's spend? Yeah, I do, to a certain extent, because, you know, we've seen how the Glazers, they sanction certain deals, and there are certain bits of money that have made available that we've gone and got. Look, we spent big money on Pogba, we spent big money on Lukaku, we spent a reasonable amount on Bruno, but he's been back. We spent huge money on Maguire. So money is there for stellar signings, but they're never willing to go into their own pocket. For me, that's how I see the Glazers. You know, they're bleeding the club dry. It's all about, you know, everything is on debt. And if they spent just a portion of what, like you said, they spent there on their NFL team, then we could go and get these players. It wouldn't matter. We wouldn't have to wait until the end of the transfer window to try and get Thiago for a cheaper price. We could just go and say, do you know what, fuck this. Just go and get the 30 M's and just do it. Do you know what I'm saying? Spend it on him. So, that does worry me. That does worry me a lot. But I just think if they're truly going to back Ollie in Ollie's time, since he's going to be here, they've got to get this right. They've got to get this right. I know the Corona thing is a situation, and a lot of clubs have been affected by it. But he has to get back. Otherwise, how crucial this is, is Van der Beek by himself. It'll be a similar season to last season, because you're expecting Martial to do the same. You're expecting Rashford to hit the same numbers, Greenwood to kick on, and you hope, fingers crossed, you pray, whatever, that Bruno and Pogba stay fit. But it's a big ask. How are they going to play every single game? 38 games in the Premier League, however many games in the Champions League, however many games in the Carabao Cup, FA Cup. It just can't be done. And then you've got to take into consideration that form. You know what I mean? Players go in and out of form. Players get fatigued. So they've got to back Ollie. The difference between Ollie just competing for top four or pushing on to challenge the likes of second, because I think it is hard to challenge for the title this season, because we're not going to get the 4 or 5 signings we need. That's the difference, whether he's backed or not. If he doesn't get backed, it's another season of battling for fourth. If you want us to kick on, we have to back Oli this season. I mean, in the transfer market. Karen Bansell says Thiago and Sancho makes us title contenders? ? You know what? If you're being honest, apart from a centre half that you're going to need, and you might argue that you need better in the fullback positions, if everyone stays fit and you had the right manager or our principles were instilled, adding Sancho and Thiago with the players that we've got is possible. It is possible to have a title challenge. But the only problem is I just think that back four with Lindelof and Maguire, I don't think we'll be able to sustain a challenge with that. With the attacking players, yes. And if you bring in a Thiago into that midfield, brilliant. Do you know what I'm saying? Fantastic. The depth you've got in there and the quality you've got in there. Look, a midfield of Pogba, Bruno and Thiago, for me, on paper, would be the best in the Premier League. Arguably. There's not much room for argument. I can't think of much better than that. Yes, you got, say, De Bruyne, Rodri and Gundogan. But on paper, is that as good as ours? If we got Thiago in there, probably not. But if Thiago goes to Liverpool, you're looking at Henderson, Thiago, Wijnaldum if he stays, or Henderson, Thiago and Fabinho. On paper, it doesn't look as good as Pogba, Bruno and Thiago. It doesn't. But we all know how that fits in, how the Liverpool's midfield works and how good they actually are. It's not about on paper. So yeah, on paper, that looks possible, but our defence is still not there yet. And you never know if Martial gets injured. Can Mason step up and score 2025? Well, he did pretty well last season, so there's a chance. But he's still young. You don't know. He could struggle this season. Who knows? I don't think he will, but you just don't know. So I think the depth at the top end, if you bring in Sancho, could get covered. The depth in the midfield could get covered in with Thiago, but at the back, I wouldn't bet on that. Rafa says people underrate Arsenal. Arteta is proper good. Look, Arteta's done well. He's looking like he's going to do well, and Arsenal are looking like they're going to be quite solid this season. They can always be and do an Arsenal and mess up, but I can see them doing quite well under Arteta this season. I'm just double checking Twitter now to make sure there hasn't been anything breaking. Look at KG. LOL. I'm telling Fabrizio Romano feels like this every morning. Could you imagine if he shared everything he has heard? KG just going for it. Liverpool still favourites to sign Thiago, but let's see what happens. What if Wijnaldum stays? Exactly. If Wijnaldum stays, then will they still go for it? That's from Rob Blanchett. So if you're just joining us, the news is that Bayern Munich have basically said that Thiago hasn't signed a new deal, rejected at the last minute, and he probably has an agreement in principle with either Manchester United and Liverpool or both. Manchester United playing hardball, Manchester United playing poker to try and blackmail, whatever you want to call it, Bayern Munich into selling him for cheaper, closer towards the end of the transfer window, which does make sense. Also, Sancho as well hasn't been seen training for Dortmund, and Dortmund have a game tomorrow, and he hasn't trained, and he also wasn't mentioned in the press conference as well. So we'll see how that pans out. So that's the latest news there. We're going to keep responding to stuff here on the United Stand. We're going to bring you all of the news as we get it, as you guys get it, and react to it, open up the conversation. That is what it's all about. Flex, who wins, Spurs or Everton? That's going to be a good game. I think that'll be a draw. I'm really interested to see how they get on this year, Everton. Signing James, signing Alan. They look like they're signing some good players there, and they look like under Ancelotti they're trying to build something. I want to finish off by just kind of a bit of a reaction to the game yesterday with Aston Villa. I watched the highlights. I didn't watch the whole thing. I watched like an extended highlights, and you saw Van der Beek kind of line up next to Scott McTominay, which McTominay played right actually. I was quite impressed with him in certain areas. And Van der Beek looked good. He did look good. Second half of the game, You saw Van der Beek kind of play in the 10 position. Basically what we know of Van der Beek, he can play across the midfield, whether it's going to be deeper, whether it's going to be further forward, whether it's box to box. He can do it. Good couple moments of feet from him. You know, good passing, laying in players at the right time. Dan James got into good positions, a little bit wasteful, should have done better, but again, got to get the ring rust out. Thought Luke Shaw looks okay. Thought he looked good. You know, the jury can be out on Luke Shaw, but one thing I do know is that he's our best left back. That's all I know. So he needs to play. So good to have him back. But it is a little bit worrying. I was speaking to a few fans this morning, and some people were saying that it's a concern. You know, we're going to be behind. But look, we'll have players back for next week. Don't panic against Crystal Palace. Yes, they've been there for a week or so. They've had a game under their belt. They won. But it'll be a tough game. They're going to have a low block. They might start that Eze kid. He looks good. Zaha scored. He looked bright. But, you know, at the end of the day, I think we should be ready. We should be ready. Just going to check Twitter, make sure nothing has popped up. No, nothing has popped up. You know, people do the fake thing. They're like, oh, Fabrizio's tweeted or someone's tweeted. No, they haven't. Just relax. I've got it on speed dial, guys. You lot just worry about yourself. Do you know what I mean? I got man on tweeting, or maybe he has. Let's have a look. Nah, it's the same thing. There you go. Yeah. So yeah, on that, back to how we played the other day. Yesterday against Aston Villa. That's all people losing their shit and going mad at. Look, it's a pre-season friendly, man. It's a pre-season friendly. Just allow it. Just relax. It's not that deep. Do you know what I mean? It really isn't that deep. And we're gonna have Martial back. We're gonna have Mason back in the squad. Hopefully, we're going to have. Maybe not Paul Pogba though. That's an interesting one. He will be training, but obviously Solskjaer said he's a doubt, which, you know, that's fine. You're looking at that. It'll probably be Bruno van der Beek, and I reckon he goes with a runner. Probably Fred or McTominay, I think he would go with. Maybe a Matic, but we'll see. We shall see. Guys, that's your latest Manchester United news anyway. I'm going to be back actually on your screens at 8 p.m. today. I'm doing a Sunday show. We've got Ricky on, we've got Sophie on, and we've got KG on as well. So I'll be back on at 8. And we'll see if anything breaks in between that. If anything breaks in between that, probably Mark coming to your screens. If there's any big movement on the Sancho situation, we shall see. But you know what we do here. Smash a like on the video. Hit subscribe if you're new. Yeah, keep subscribing. And we will see you guys very, very soon. Hopefully we get some good news by 8 o'clock. Hopefully we're coming into 8 o'clock with even more developments coming out for Sancho and Thiago. Maybe even Bada Shields. Who knows? Latest piece. I'm